Hello everybody, here I am with fruitful trees at a place that has many fruitful trees. This is Jerry. Jerry's a fellow Brooklynite, so we
ex-Brooklynite.
Well, we understand each other. Let's say it that way. We understand each other. Everyone else in the world has an accent, but we don't. He has an amazing property here, which we're going to see today. And thank you for inviting us out. Absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward for the tour. He's in Jupiter Farms, Florida, which is the 10A zone, right?
Correct.
10A zone. So I'm in 10B, so everything that I get is about a month behind up here when it starts ripening. But that means at the end of the year, it stays a month later. When I stop, I'm going to come visit him. So
you have iguanas, I don't.
Yes. So we're going to start our tour right now and check it out. All right, everybody. So today I'm going to be doing an interview with Jerry at this place here, which is his house. And he has about 1¼ acre, and it actually feels like more. And there were some trees when he moved in here a couple of years ago that were already just huge coconut trees he'll show you. And it also has some huge Longan tree and a huge Lychee tree, and even an old beautiful mamey tree. But he's added a whole bunch of other trees since. And he's doing kind of the ultra high density gardening, planting very close. But he's letting everything be as natural as possible. A lot of his mangoes here are new mangoes in the ground, and they're starting to fruit. He has a bunch of bananas. He has a bunch of avocados. And you can learn a lot from different people. That's why I get around there. I do this and I make these videos. Everyone's situation is always a little bit different in terms of what they're looking to accomplish with growing. Some people do it because they want to eat the food and that's it. Like they want to survive and get as much food as possible. Some people just love the hobby. And there are so many other reasons people are into growing fruit trees. And Jerry's going to share why he does it and how he does it and his philosophy. And to a degree, we're all newbies at this because it takes so many years. You can keep learning stuff. But to another degree, he has enough stuff in the ground to say he's had a lot of experience. So we're going to check out his place today. And here we go.
Hi, I'm Jerry, and welcome to my Fruitopia here in Jupiter Farms.
Okay, and how long have you been on this property, Jerry?
I've been here 2.5 years, and so anything that you see that's under 15 feet tall, I've put in, and all of the big trees were here originally.
Okay. All right, show us around your property here.
Well, I have a rather eclectic approach. I'm growing basically for my own personal consumption, so I'm not as much concerned with, getting a heavy production, but more interested in variety and uniqueness, and I'm kind of attracted to the oddball stuff.
Okay.
So this is a Maria B avocado. It's a very interesting variety from the point of view if you're looking for a fruit tree that will stay tiny and you can keep in a pot and nice and easy to take care of. And as you can see, even this tiny little baby is producing some avocados.
Wow. And so, do you have irrigation on here or do you just use the mulch?
I have no irrigation. That's why you'll see high, heavy beds of mulch. This was originally about 1 foot tall. And so when we do get some rain, which has been very rare here during this drought, it pretty much holds a lot of water. I also would water fruit trees the first 2 or 3 months they're in the ground just to give them a good start. And then afterwards, they're pretty much on their own.
Okay.
This is a Ponderosa lemon tree. And what makes it interesting is that it produces very, very large lemons, probably the size of a grapefruit. It also has wonderful flowers that smell fantastic.
How old is that tree?
This tree I planted about 6 months ago. This was a 3-gallon tree, and you can see it's already producing fruit.
No problem with citrus up here that you know of?
Now, citrus in Florida has a tendency to get the Wan Long Bing, HBL, or what do you call it, citrus greening and citrus canker. And I have the approach that I don't like to treat with chemicals. I don't like to treat with insecticides and pesticides and everything else. I kind of believe in letting the plant's own immune system do it and helping it out wherever it can. And the tree will fight off most of what you get. So if you see like the lower leaves, with the leaves that were on it before, and that's not citrus greening. What that is a nutritional deficiency. And for most of these trees down here, the problem is not the fertilizer of the soil, the problem is the high pH. So when I planted this, I added sulfur pellets, which are organic, and it adds to, lowers the pH. And so now the same tree is able to absorb the micronutrients that it really needs from the soil. So it's not about feeding the tree, it's about healing the soil. So you get a healthy soil.
How often you put the sulfur down?
You can put it down twice a year.
Okay.
So you can see the difference. The old leaves that were on it when I got the tree have a nutritional deficiency, and you'll see all the new leaves pushing are healthy and beautiful.
Is that your plan to do it twice a year?
I let the plants talk to me.
Okay.
And
well,
I see what they look like. I don't focus on the old leaves. I focus just on the new leaves.
now I got a good question for you. So, how far apart is this avocado and this lemon
I plant
tree?
everything very close.
So how far did you just do it by eye, or did you actually measure it?
It's done by eye. These are planted tighter because this is going to be a dwarf, so it stays small. Now, I believe in the mycorrhiza, which are fungal growth, that they communicate between plants, and they actually share nutrients and micronutrients amongst themselves. And so it really is all connected by a network underneath.
Yeah.
And so they live together in harmony, almost like a symbiotic relationship. Now, if you want to go for maximum production, you can plant them 16 feet apart and rows 20 feet apart.
Sure.
But I'll get more than enough from smaller trees that are more manageable.
And you're just going to have to, even though it's still a dwarf, you're still going to have to cut it back every now and then.
I haven't cut anything back yet.
Well, yeah, eventually.
By year.
Yeah.
I don't need to have a plan.
Okay, I know what this is, but I'll let you tell people.
This is a green kaimito, which hasn't flowered or fruited yet. It's a 3-year-old. It was a 3-gallon tree. It's been in the ground about 2 years. Kind of slow growing. Haven't tried the fruit yet from it. Waiting to see.
Yeah, I got one of those as well from Leaf and in front of my house, and I have tried the fruit, not off mine, but off another one recently.
Wonderful fruit.
Yes, yes,
I'm looking forward to it. It's a slow grower, though.
yes.
This is one of the only...
You sound just like me, by the way. Yeah, we're both from New York, everybody.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
originally from Brooklyn.
Yeah, me too. All
you
right.
can tell the accent.
Yes.
This is one of the only trees I have that's a common fruit that you can find anywhere. This is a dwarf Cavendish. And I just, for the hell of it, I picked one up at Home Depot. It was $12. I couldn't resist the bargain. And I figured I have like 10 other varieties of bananas. Even though it's not rare or exotic, if there was a spot for it, I put it in.
Okay.
This little vine is a Seminole pumpkin vine that's growing. And it's been in about 6 months. And I couldn't understand why it wasn't producing any fruit. And I kept looking and thinking it's the rabbits eating it, the bugs eating it, something else. And the other day I happened to notice it sent up a little vine into the tree. And boom, there's the fruit hiding in plain sight.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So sometimes these plants are very good at hiding their fruit. This is a black sapote, or a chocolate pudding tree. Very precocious tree. This was a 3-gallon planted 2.5 years ago. And look how big it is already. This is the first year it's flowering. And there's a very complicated sexual life of these particular species. There's hermaphroditic male flowers and hermaphroditic female flowers, and it's very complicated. But I only have one of them. It's supposed to be self-pollinating. It's too early to tell yet. So we'll see whether I get fruit or not. Have you have these trees?
3 of them.
And are they fruiting for you?
Oh, yeah.
They're doing nice.
There's about 5 different varieties that are common out here. They do nice. They fruit by themselves.
Can you tell if this is new fruit or just the remains of some flower buds?
I don't know, but this is some fruit coming.
That's the flower.
Yeah, but it'll fruit. It'll
Yeah,
fruit, no
so
problem.
We'll see. Maybe
No, it
I'll
will.
get lucky.
But now this tree is huge.
Yeah.
This will be your biggest tree he'll ever
This I
own.
may have to cut back. If it
Yes,
gets too
no,
crazy.
you will. You will.
Now, if you notice where I planted it, I knew it was a big tree.
In the corner.
So this is on the northmost corner. The sun is coming up from the south.
Smart.
So even if it gets big, it's not going to shade out any of my other trees.
Very wise. Okay.
And there's room for it to go, as long as it doesn't get as big and hitting the wires.
Well, you'll have to cut it because... But that's all right. It's good to cut them.
This is an Indian jujube.
Yep.
For those who don't know, it basically tastes like a green apple. It's in the ground about 2 years. It really should be pruned and shaped and everything. I haven't done anything, and it's kind of wild and crazy.
Have you gotten fruit off it yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so when you do, this is what I've learned. Mine had fruit on it. Cut it right here after you take the fruit off. It'll grow right back.
Yeah, it's incredibly fast.
Yeah, it'll grow back real fast. So after you get fruit, cut it down there.
So that's what I'm doing with a lot of these. Before I prune, I want to see where they have fruit. I also kind of a believer in the plant's own intelligence. You'll see that there's not one single spot on my entire property where I get full sun, 12 hours a day. And so I kind of believe the plants grow in weird ways and send branches sideways because they know what they're doing. So I let them do their thing first before I start hacking away because I want a perfect shape, tree for production.
Yeah, I love this. I'm just going to take a pan out of the big shot here. I love what you did here with the trees and stuff. Okay, here's next.
Yeah, you'll see I have my little islands. I just think it looks, more interesting. Same thing, if I want to water or fertilize, I can just hit the central area and it'll kind of hit the mycorrhiza and hit everything else in the roots. And, there's an assortment of different stuff growing here.
Yes.
This is a lemon cattleya, or lemon guava, as it's commonly called. Pretty fairly common fruit tree. As you can see, it's sending out a ton of flowers. And is already setting loads and loads and loads of fruit.
Beautiful.
Had fruit last year, delicious. Again, this little tiny guy is only a 3-year-old tree.
Nice.
This is a guava, a Florida tropical persimmon tree that I just put in. I picked it up a couple of weeks ago at one of the plant shows. So we'll see how that does. It was bare root when I got it, so it's leafing up nice.
In the winter, they're dormant.
So I bought it as just a stick, and it looked dead. I stuck it in the ground, and a few months later,
nice.
We have it. This is Ooh La La, also called the Super Haas, which I just put in the ground. It had a whole bunch of little fruit, but seems to be dropping them. No surprise. It's really too small to hold fruit anyway. So some people tell you pick them off. I said let the tree decide what it wants to do. It'll drop them if it can't handle it, as you can see. It may save a few. So, I just want to taste them. I got a few fruit there. If they hold, terrific. This is a Zill Black, which is a Suriname cherry. It's a young tree. This is 2 years old. The first year it just sat here and did nothing. It didn't see any growth at all. And this spring now it's pushing new leaves. So it may be a year or two before it starts to fruit. It's the only one I'm have hopes for because the regular ones I hate the taste of them.
Yeah.
They have kind of like a peppery, resinous flavor, and I guess it's an acquired taste. These supposedly taste.
Do you have a name for this island?
No.
Okay.
You can call it Staten Island.
Staten Island.
This is a red hybrid Japoticaba and another red hybrid Japoticaba. They seem to like to live close together. And so the people who are most successful growing this jam them together. If you follow some of the people like from Flying Fox Fruits, Adam Shaffrin, I want to give him some credit for this stuff. He grows them and they're right on top of each other, and they just seem to do better that way.
Now
I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Those are dwarfs, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why I stayed. There's a bush-like growth, so I wasn't concerned about planting them so close.
See, me, I leave them in my pots because I don't have enough room as you do. So those are even my pots, and I got a fruiting one, and they're wonderful.
Yeah. So it's not an issue. This is a sweetheart lychee tree. Does not like my yard. This tree's been here a year or two. Grows a little bit. It sent up a little flower spike, had a few fruits that kind of fell off. I think I'll be 100 years old before I get fruit out of it.
Well,
I have another one in the back, a big tree.
What's in the middle there?
That's an Abelmascus manahat, which is actually a vegetable plant, and it's from last year. I don't know if it's coming back or it's just the last vestiges. It's related to hibiscus,
Okay.
but it's one of the edible food foresty kind of stuff.
Now, what's your plan with these? Because even though these can do shade, there's definitely not enough room for both of those.
Well, for what?
The lychee and that next to each other.
Well, this thing is growing so slowly, I'm not really worried about it. So,
Okay.
you know, the plan will go as it goes, and we'll see how it develops.
Alrighty.
So this is another guava. It's either pink Barbie or ruby red. They were mislabeled. And they were together, so I'm not sure which one. They're both very, very similar. Same thing, this is the first year. And if you notice, I'll try to live in harmony with nature. You see what guys are crawling on it? Fire ants. And they don't seem to hurt the plant at all, but they love feasting on whatever bugs want to eat my plant. So, you know what I mean?
Or whatever people do.
Yeah, we can live in harmony with most of the pests because they do serve a function. So I don't mind them. They don't seem to go anywhere else. They hang out on a couple of trees. Them and lizards. I have a lot of lizards live on all of my fruit trees. They eat the bugs. This one's in the ground about a year. Hasn't fruited yet. This is a Morris rubra, which is a red mulberry. Not really sure what specific cultivar it is, just kind of listed as red. This is another one of my really, really slow growing trees. This is Silas Wood Sapodilla, or Sapodilla. And I got it because I had read reviews that it was like one of the best tasting ones, but I didn't realize how slow growing it is. This tree has been in the ground almost 3 years and it's probably grown 3 or 4 inches. The new growth looks healthy. The tree is happy, just very, very slow growing. Would not really recommend it, to someone unless you're really a big collector of sapodillas and have a lot of space.
That's actually the dwarf one, the smallest one.
The Silas Wood?
Yeah,
but even that, it's sat here for a year, there was no growth. And then you can see this year it's finally waking up and pushing some new growth.
Yeah.
But I don't see fruit anytime soon out of it. So we shall have to see. Here's another guava variety. This one's from Vietnam. It's a kilo. I had another one in the backyard in a bad space and it didn't do well. But I was convinced I got to try it again because sometimes you just move into a different spot and the same tree will do better. So it's young. It's pushing some growth. No sign of any fruiting yet. Here's another guava. It's pretty much the same scenario. This is a Thai white.
Now you like guava, huh?
I like everything.
Okay.
I haven't met a fruit I don't like. I like fruit better than people. This looks like it has some activity going on over here.
Yep.
So I'm not really sure. I don't know enough about growing these, whether these are actually fruit or these are the flower buds before they come up. Kind of hoping it's fruit. This is another one that you have to really be a big fan or want oddball stuff.
Go ahead, what is it?
Ella is the variety, and it's a santal.
Okay.
It's from Africa.
Where'd you get it from? Leaf?
I might have gotten it from Leaf. I might have gotten it from Excalibur.
Okay, that's
really
nice.
Don't remember. It's another one of these turtle growing kind of trees.
Yep.
This thing is in the ground over 2 years, and this growth up that you see coming up, that's probably about it for the year.
Yeah.
So we come through this little circle over here. That's a Gulf fritillary butterfly, by the way. And I don't mind at all. I love them when they enjoy the nectar from the flowers. Not such a big fan when they eat all the leaves on my passion fruit.
Yeah.
So this one is a Miwa kumquat. And this is the only one of the kumquats that actually has a sweet peel and a sweet inside. So you just pop them in your mouth. They're like a size of maybe a large cherry, large cherry tomato. And as you can see, it's loaded with flowers and starting to push fruit at the same time back here.
Okay.
And it smells delightful. if you catch a whiff of that. It really has a beautiful
Oh, wow.
citrusy kind of a smell. A little
Yeah.
bit sort of almost a cross between a lemon and an orange. Speaking of oranges, this is a Sugar Bell Mandarin. It's one of the only varieties that's out of the Florida Research Institute stuff that they determined is citrus greening resistant. And so I ordered this from Brightleaf, which is a citrus nursery,
Yeah.
and they're almost out of stock on everything. But they're the only ones that they actually charge an extra $6 patent fee on this because it's protected. And this one is on a dwarf rootstock,
Oh, nice.
so it'll stay small. And we'll see in time what happens. This is a Moreno Sapodilla. And as you can see, this one's only in the ground maybe, I don't know, less than a year. And you can see how much more vigorous this tree is than the little Silas Wood guy. This has grown more in 6 months than that has grown in 3 years. Almost 3 years. Hopefully it has some good fruit. Now, here's another plant I want to show you I have a little different approach to. This is a Pakistan mulberry. And most people would have told you to hack this back, you know, and to let it grow. And I say, the reason it's growing this way is because I have a wind that comes this way persistently, and I want to get more production out of it without having to prune it. So this way, let it grow. I have a lot of area it can grow into. I can always prune it later. And the other benefit of letting it grow this way is, you see, naturally, without pruning, because it's leaning over, it's producing a lot more branching coming out of it on its own without having to artificially prune it. And eventually it'll balance itself out
Yeah.
because it's, you know,
How long
that's what I'm
that?
saying. The plants have their own intelligence, and
How long has that been in the ground?
maybe 6 months. Very fast grower. And I could see at some point I'll prune it, but it would take cuttings from it more likely, you know.
Sure.
We'll see what happens. This is a Grumichama, Brazilian cherry tree. It has the precursors of the flowering, as you can see. When it starts to send these leaves up, that's how you know it's going to start to flower. Otherwise, like the branches that don't have them, you won't see flowering. This tree is more like a bush form, and it's been in the ground about 2 years. This is the first time it's pushing this pre-flower
Nice size.
kind
It
of
looks
stage.
good.
I have another one in the back. This is an oddball tree, because I like weird stuff. Take a look at this little flower that's coming out of it.
Yeah. Wow.
And that flower will develop into this. That's a Vietnamese pomegranate. One of the few varieties that does well down here in South Florida. Not terribly productive, but a very interesting looking tree. And even the new leaves, when they come up, they push beautiful red flowers. They're going to red coloring leaves. So, a novelty. I love it. This puppy I just put into the ground, I don't know, maybe a month ago, or not even. It's a pomelo. Have no idea whether it's going to work out here or not, but I figured let me get it to the collection. What the heck? Same situation. If you see, it had these discoloring in the leaves. When I got it, you know, just a month ago, this is a Home Depot, specimen. But I hit it with something called triple superphosphate, which is an organic product, and the sulfur. And all the new leaves coming up have none of that chlorosis or chlorophyll dieback. So sometimes they just need a little help, and you can pick up some good bargains.
Yeah.
This is a Soursop or Guava.
Where'd you get that from?
This is just a seedling. I don't even remember where I picked it up.
Okay.
I had an extra one. I just stuck it here. It's a terrible spot. It's all shady. But I really want it more for privacy hedging.
Sure.
And how it does, I'm not worried about. These are a couple different banana varieties. The Grand Nan. And this is, I think, a double something. I forgot what the name of it. Most of the other fruit trees, I remember the names specifically, but I was pretty bad when I put these in the ground.
Where'd you get the
About
bananas
writing
from?
down. I buy stuff from everybody.
From everybody
I
everywhere.
got stuff from Alex Salazar.
Yeah.
I got stuff from Chris, Truly Tropical, and Tropical Acres, Excalibur, Leaf. I'm a member of the Palm Beach Rare Fruit Club. I
Yeah.
get stuff from the auctions. I get stuff from the plant shows. I get from Mike at Trees and More.
Okay, just like me. You get
Cuttings
from
from
everywhere.
neighbors. I love hunting down rare fruit and weird stuff. These are actually seedlings, which of course I know will take 10 years to grow, but they're from a Thomas Sapodilla that grew on Alex Salazar's farm.
Did you see?
I picked up the
seed?
fruit from last season,
Yeah.
Which I found I didn't really care to eat that much because they're too sweet. And, they're good, better for making ice cream and shakes, unless you've got a real, sugar craving. But I stuck these seeds in a pot just for the hell of it, and
How
they're
often
doing
do you
nicely.
water that one? How often do you water that?
Pretty much when it rains.
Okay.
And if I see it looking, it's hurting, I'll drag the hose out. I have some hoses over here
Okay.
and give it a squirt. The bigger the pot, the less you have to water it.
Yeah.
So I mix up my own soils. So I mix it if I'm going to be lazy about it. I leave a little more organic stuff in it. Otherwise, there's more peat moss and coconut coir. And this is a Longan tree. It's a kohala, and look at the size of this. Look at the fruiting on this.
Wow.
And this is one of mine that I got from my backyard that I
Okay.
chopped off from my other tree and did a air layer on. And as you can see, it's doing better here than it is in my backyard. There's 12 coconut trees on the property, and they're all loaded with coconuts. I'm not a big fan of coconuts. The trees look cool, but they're a pain in the ass because they drop coconuts everywhere. The palm leaves are huge to clean up from your yard. And as you can see, I got to be tricky about where I park. Otherwise, I'm going to get the coconuts landing all over me and my car.
You ever thought of cutting them down or no way?
I thought about it because they're really terrible as far as growing with other fruit trees and stuff. But then again, I have enough property here, and they do look pretty. So I kind of leave them. I had one that died recently, and then I have no remorse.
Yeah.
The
And you're never
top
gonna get
snapped
those. You're never gonna get those coconuts by yourself, right?
Well, they come down. I'm right on your head. you
Yeah.
know? I give them away. There's a lot of work to crack them open, and I don't particularly like the coconut water from these trees. I don't know what varieties are. There's like 2 or 3 different varieties. I don't know the names of any of them. They were here when I bought the property. But a lot of work to get a little bit of water out of them. And, I wasn't thrilled with it. So this is an area that was fenced off because the previous property had some horses on it. It's an equestrian community. But I left the fencing up because I wanted to use for trellises. So it was kind of a useful stuff. This is Southern Home Muscadine.
Wow.
One of the few varieties that's self-pollinating down here. And I bought this as one of those mail order plants when I got here first. And it was 2 inches tall. And when I first got in the mail, I said, I can't believe I was stupid enough to order this thing 2 inches tall. Because I couldn't find it anywhere else. And the first year, I thought for sure it was dead. It grew a few inches. And then, of course, it dropped all the leaves and it looked like just a dead twig. The second year, it started to spread out. And it's now going into its 3rd year. And it's really taken off finally. No fruit yet because the vines are still too small. Usually the vines have to be at least as thick as a pencil to start producing. But by next year, it should be making fruit. This is black raspberry bush. And this is also in the ground only about a year. It obviously is happy here. What's nice about this one is it'll self-spread. Because all you have to do is let the tips of the branches touch the ground, and they'll send down roots, and you'll have more plants.
Wow.
A little more challenging for it here because of the wood, so that would keep it in control. Otherwise, I'd have a whole bunch of them.
Nice.
They're kind of tart. If you like, stuff on the sour side, They're not quite right. They probably need another day. Let me know what you think. They have a very strong black raspberry flavor
Very tart.
and seeds. Still
You want
tart,
to try?
right? Try one with a miracle berry.
Yeah,
I
right.
had miracle berry in the bag. It's probably better to use it for drinks or flavoring and stuff. This is also a thorn variety, but they're pretty, and the butterflies absolutely love the flowers. So I keep it. I try to attract butterflies. I like them. This is a Puerto Rican avocado variety called Utuardo, and very productive. Produces a lot of avocados. Last year it didn't hold the fruit at all. Every single one of them dropped, and this year it seems to be holding nicely. Quite a lot of fruit out of a tree that's in the ground 2.5 years. This was, again, another 3-gallon pot that I bought from AK Caribbean Nursery, which used to sell, they're out in Loxahatchee, but I think they're now closed to the public. But they used to set up at I think it was the Palm Beach Gardens, Garden Market, or whatever it was called. And very sweet people. I bought it from her, and it's a nice tree.
Have you got a chance to taste that variety yet?
No, last year because it didn't keep the fruit.
Okay, okay.
They're an oily avocado, more like the Haas and out of Florida. I try to avoid the Florida ones. I don't really care for the watery avocado types. Well, I may just add one just for add to the collection. I have about 10 avocado varieties. I got a couple of fig trees spread all over the place, and then I have a main fig collection in the back. These are all the common figs, meaning they don't need a wasp to pollinate them, like the Capri figs that you see out the West Coast and in some parts of Europe. So the reason you'll see them all in pots is because everything that I put in the ground out here was beat up by the root knot nematodes. They seem to love sandy soil, and especially fig trees. So the ones I had, I yanked out of the ground, and these I just keep in pots now. This is an interesting thing about letting fruits too early on a young tree. Can you guess what variety these are?
Namdok Mai?
These are both Namdok Mai number 4. Both grown from ZIL. Both planted at the same time. This tree, I let have fruit. And then I read somewhere, don't let it have fruit, you'll stunt the growth. And sure enough, they were absolutely correct. It had 2 fruit on it. The fruit were delicious. The next year, it did nothing. This was the first year. And this year, it's just pushing growth. So I set it back 2 years. This tree is the exact same age.
Wow.
Exact same age. And I picked all the fruit off. And you can see how close they are. Identical soil, identical light, identical everything. Almost twins. And this one, as you can see, pushing a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
And not a lot of new growth. Versus this one, all new growth and no fruit.
Yeah.
So something to be said about patience. And waiting for the fruit to do what it's got to do. Most of the trees will just do it on their own. This one is a very fast-growing tree, as you can see. This one's called Cotton Candy. It's another one of the ZIL varieties. The first year it's making fruit, and they seem to be holding.
Looks nice.
And this is only in the ground 2 years. 3-gallon tree.
3 gallons, wow.
3-gallon tree. I buy mostly 3 gallons because of a budget. I'd rather have more varieties and try. I'm also a believer that younger trees do better, they adapt better. And it's nice to get stuff earlier, but it's just like kids when they come here from another country. They come here when they're 3 and 4 years old. They learn English right away, and they hardly even have an accent. You know, once they come here at 10, 15, you hear the accent for the rest of their life, and the learning is harder. So these trees seem to adapt better, at least here.
Now, just for people watching, take note. A 3-gallon today is not a 3-gallon like when you bought them.
No, that's a 1-gallon.
Yeah.
Now 3 gallons is like a 7-gallon
exactly.
was a year ago.
Exactly. So if anyone's watching and you say 3 gallons, well, that grew a lot. Well, get a 7-gallon, and that's like a 3-gallon.
3-gallon, the tree was about 3.5 feet tall.
Yeah, and now that's a 7-gallon.
Now that's a 7-gallon.
Yeah, so.
But you can see this is supposed to be a very, very sweet variety, and that's why they call it cotton candy. And for the first year fruiting, it seems to be holding pretty decently and pretty close to ripening. It's starting to color up already. Looking forward to trying it. This is a monster passion fruit vine, which you can see the caterpillars, these little buggers. That's the Gulf frittler, those pretty orange ones. And they will just go crazy, stripping all of the leaves off this tree.
Not too pretty.
And they will. But again, I have a kind of, I hate to kill stuff that I don't need to. So I'll leave it there and let the, if it makes its way back, good luck for him. More than likely the lizards will get him.
Yes.
But I feel better that I didn't squash him. So even with all this decimation, it had the vine has a will to live, and so it keeps pushing out new leaves and new leaves and new leaves. The same thing with the hidden fruit. I just happened to walk around this morning, and I saw a survivor that didn't get eaten, and there he is.
Nice.
So hopefully he'll color up. This is the purple passion variety.
Okay.
Passiflora edulis.
While we're here on this mango tree, tell me what you were telling me about.
Okay, the same thing. I don't like to prune stuff unnecessarily. So you'll see I got a couple of bungee cords, which I use just to prop up some of the fruit. Just some bungee cords.
Okay.
And I'm propping this one up also so the fruit don't drag on the ground and get rotted. So after the season, I can choose to either prune it, but I didn't want to affect, when you prune trees, it affects their growth for next year. If you whack them back this year, it'll spend all next year growing more branches, and you won't get as good a production. So if I do this and get them off the ground, I'll get the fruit this year, and it'll train the branches up, and then I won't need to whack them. So at least that's my idea. I mean, there's 50 different opinions. Other people tell you, oh, no, that's horrible. Don't do that. You got to prune it. You got to leave a vase shape. You got to leave the open air in the middle and chop off the top and do everything. Again, I let the tree do its own decision, what it wants, wherever possible. Really pretty tree, though. This is another one that's fruiting for the first time. And this was one where I got wrong information. Again, you can check on the internet and they tell you need a type A and a type B on the avocados. So most of those are type A, so I got a type B. And it turns out it's really nonsense. It has to do more with commercial production. That if you have a type A and type B, you might get 5, as much possibly as 10% increase in production by the cross-pollination. But for the home yard grower, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? You'll have more than enough anyway. Again, same thing. This is not a very productive tree. This is the first time it's fruiting, and I got a few fruit on it.
And what is that one?
We'll see.
Brogdon.
This is Brogdon.
Yes.
It's a nice tree. Kind of got blown over by the wind. As you can see, I didn't even bother propping it up. Let it do its thing. And the reason I didn't bother is because the wind tends to predominantly go this way, and that's also the southern exposure. So the tree on its own will start to grow this way, and eventually will straighten itself up. I'm also not a big fan of staking up the trees for the same reason. I kind of believe like the trees will develop stronger roots if they don't have, 3 different stakes tying them up and, supports everywhere. That'll kind of weaken the tree. The tree becomes dependent. It's the same thing if you have it on a drip irrigation of water every single day and it's propped up. Yeah, you might get a pretty tree for a while, but really you have a weaker tree. The roots don't develop if they don't need to go out and look for water and food. And, then when you get a strong wind, the thing will snap. But here, it has to fight a little bit. It gets stronger. This is one of these cocktail trees. It's Myers lemon and key lime. And what happens in most of these things where you have 2 trees grafted together that are really different types, one is going to overtake the other one. And so I would say 90% of this is now Myers lemon. and the other piece is lime. And maybe I get one lime for every 20 lemons on this tree. And the lime is kind of struggles, and the lemons do great. Very nice, easy to find anywhere, and you can just pick them up at Home Depot for like 15 bucks, and these things grow like crazy. Very, very easy to propagate by just chopping off a branch and sticking in some dirt. But you can see what I like about it is it produces fruit almost all year round. Down here, I'm in zone 10A, and so you can see I got fruit developing, and yet it's still pushing more flowers. So I'll have a continuous supply of lemons. And Maya's are like the sweetest lemon. They're really delicious. Love them. This is a Huang Tung, which is a type of starfruit, or carambola. Has an interesting growth habit. If you come and you look this way, they almost grow like espalier. All of them are like this. They grow along an axis. It almost looks like it was pruned that way, but that's the way they grow.
Interesting.
All of them that you see. Very fast growing tree. And I had large fruit on it that, I should have probably not let it handle because the branches was too weak. But didn't seem to hurt it. It just grows terrifically. As you can see, it's pushing loads and loads of new leaves. And I'm pretty sure it's going to flower again and have fruit soon. That's a medicinal herb called cathedral bells. It's supposed to do all kinds of stuff as far as, dealing with high blood pressure and sugars. Someone who came to my house brought me as a gift, and I put it there. And haven't eaten it, but it's happy there, so I leave it. This is, of course, lemongrass, which grows like crazy down here. This is another variety that's hard to tell whether it's where it's planted, which is not a very sunny spot. Hard to tell. This is a Catalina, which is supposed to be a very good avocado.
Yeah.
But obviously does not like this spot. Probably because it doesn't get enough sun. I mean, it grows nice, but it's slow growing and hasn't produced any fruit yet. This is a Christmas loquat, which doesn't really look that good, but it's perfectly healthy. It tends to collect this sooty mold, which doesn't do any harm to the tree at all. So it doesn't really, look that pretty, but it made delicious fruit. It's called the Christmas variety because it's supposed to be the first one that fruits. I have 5 different varieties that I bought all to have different fruiting zone, and they all fruited and flower at the exact same time. So, you can just research so much and try it. I had a load of loquats, but they all came in at the same time, and they lasted for about 2 weeks. And you have to hit it just perfectly because they're really sour until they're ripe. And then when they're ripe, they're absolutely delicious. And then within a week, they're starting to shrivel up already.
Well, we passed this one, did we?
Okay, yeah, this is a peach cobbler. It had a ton of fruit first year and dropped all of them, which is not that uncommon. With a lot of these fruit trees, the first year they'll send up a lot of fruit. But the tree is healthy. It's doing well. Very vigorous.
It's a great tree. I just was with Alex yesterday, and I did a review about this tree.
The peach cobbler one. Yeah. Did you get to taste test them?
No.
Alex is in what, West Palm?
Yeah.
So they're in zone 10B, which is actually 1 month ahead of us. So all the stuff that's fruiting down there hasn't even really started here.
Yeah, he has his tree's loaded. Yeah.
Interesting phenomenon. The mangoes do well here. They just start later. There's a fruit on it that hasn't fallen off. But it had a lot more and most of them dropped, which is pretty common the first year. Then the second year they'll hold. This is a Montingia calabura strawberry tree. This is in the ground like 2 years. Grows like a weed. And it's kind of a novelty. Just for the heck of it. Have you tried this one? What's nice about it is this one's not, let me see.
There's a big red one up there.
I have more in the back. You can try them. This is what I call like a fun tree. The kids love it because they can pick the fruits.
Yeah.
Not a lot to eat on them. They're very sweet. They taste like a little burst of candy in your mouth.
Like Captain Crunch cereal, I think.
Yeah, maybe. You know, like it does, like it's like a kid's cereal flavor. They love it. But what's interesting is that it fruits twice a day. I mean, they ripen so fast. It's loaded with fruit. And if you get it before the birds and everything else, you can pick fruit in the morning and come back in the afternoon and pick more that are ripe. They ripen up so quickly. So nice if you have kids, because it tends to grow wide like this. And you can whack the heck out of this and cut it back. And I really should just, everywhere it's over the lawn is like in the last like 2 months. But it takes a hard pruning with it without a problem. Kind of a novelty item. This one, interesting little story. This is another pickering. I say another because I have an older one on the other side. I was at Alex's place the end of last season. And, you know, just shopping around for fruit and trees. And I was down there with my brother, and one of his friends who works in a hospital with him came, and he was looking to buy a fruit tree. And he was there with his mom, and I couldn't tell who was more neurotic between the two of them. Because he was like, he didn't have any fruit trees, and he was obsessing over a million different varieties, and what should I start with, and what stay small, and what can I take care of? And I pointed this one out, which was for sale. I said, if you're going to buy the first one, or you're only going to have one mango tree, get a pickering. It stays small, it produces a lot of fruit, it's very vigorous, and you know what I mean? It's an attractive tree. It's like the perfect beginner tree. And he was asking about the price, and it was you'd think he was buying another house. In the end, he had to go home and think about it. And I did such a good job at selling him, even though I had one, and he didn't want it. I said, shit, I'll take it, you know, and add it to my, got another one. It's a great tree. I'll show you its older sibling.
Yeah.
So this is from Alex's yard. So I'm not sure whether he grafts them himself.
Yeah, he does. How tall when you got it?
It's only in the ground now less than a year.
Okay.
I mean, from last season. So the first year, it's not pushing fruit, which is a good thing, but it's obviously growing very vigorously. Look at all the new growth on it. And there's no nitrogen in any, and I don't use any nitrogen on any of this stuff. Because if you give it too much nitrogen, it'll just promote a lot of leaf growth and no fruiting. And all of this wood mulch gives it enough nitrogen. So if you're going to hit it with something else, you know, a little maybe phosphorus, potassium mix, but stay away from the nitrogen. You'll never see any fruit out of these trees. They'll just grow like crazy and nothing will fruit. That's the other Namdak Mai. This guy I just added a couple weeks ago. Just for the heck of it, somebody said it was a wonderful variety, even though I said I was going to stop at 15. This is a sweet tart. So I just put this in the ground a few weeks ago. This one is called Seacrest, or Triple Sec. It goes by both names. It's supposed to taste like an orange liqueur. This is, again, the same thing. This is was a 3-gallon tree, planted 2.5 years ago. First year, this year, it set a ton of fruit. And unfortunately, almost all of them have fallen off. But I'm hoping I'll be able to get to taste it, because I still have a few fruit hanging, and they look like they're real close to being ripe. They're large size, and they're just coloring up.
Nice.
But it had at least 30 fruit on it that dropped. This is the other pickering. So you can see why I love this tree. It's so small, and hangs beautiful, large fruit for a tiny tree. Absolutely delicious, small, easy to manage, no pruning. If you're going to have one fruit tree, that's the one. If you're going to have one mango, that's the one to start with. There's another new one that I put in the last 6 months or so. Looks like it's going to be extremely vigorous. No problem adapting when I stuck it in here. You can see all of this growth is in the last, 2 months. It's called a fruit cocktail, which is different than the fruit punch variety. The fruit punch one has kind of one taste to it, tastes like Hawaiian punch, and it's just kind of like all mixed one flavor. Whereas this one, you can really taste some of the separate fruit in it, like pear and peach and mango and coconutty, and nice mix. Waiting to see. Normally, I wouldn't let it keep the fruit, but because it's so vigorous a grower, and the trunk is getting so fat, I figured, you know what? Let the tree decide. And it had about a dozen fruit and dropped them all except for these two. I'm going to leave them.
Patience. Remember what you said.
Yeah, but I'm saying I'm not.
It's
When I
exciting.
saw how vigorous
Yeah.
it is, and now, when you have 16 mango trees, you're a little more willing to gamble on it
Yeah.
than when you only have a few and you have such high hopes for it to be the one. I'll just finish with some of the other mangoes here. A lot of these is the first year of production because they're in the ground 2.5 years. Here's another 3-year-old tree. Here's another Zul variety called Harvest Moon. So we're going to see. It's making huge mangoes, which I try to prop up, and you can see in the weight of it is pulling even my bungee cords down. It's got a couple fruit on it. Had a lot more. Most of them dropped. But these look like they're going to stay. So when I see a trunk that's 4 inches like that, I don't worry about, hurting the trees. Again, this one never had any fruit on it until this year.
Wow, that's loaded.
And it's loaded. This is a Graham variety. I'm not sure what happened over here, but I don't panic. I don't spray it. It doesn't seem to be affecting its production much or most of the new growth. Could be some kind of insect damage. I don't stress it. Healthy tree, it'll
Now,
recover.
you know about these trees, right?
This variety,
Yeah,
Graham?
yeah.
It's a West Indian variety.
Yeah, so Chris at Truly Tropical said she didn't like it so much she almost got rid of it. And if you put it in one, mix it with anything else, it'll mess up everything. Unless if you pick it at the right time, which she did, and then it was like one of the best mangoes.
Yeah, so this is why I happen to like varieties that have more complex flavors.
Yeah.
Not ones that taste like a Tommy Atkins or like mango juice. I like the stuff that's a little spicy, a little resinous, a little, sharper flavor. I'll show you my favorite one, which is Carry down there. And it's like almost every bite tastes different on the fruit when it's ripe. It tastes different on the top part of the fruit and the bottom part of the fruit, close to the peel, close to the pit. I mean, it's just such a complex flavor. I love it. These are some Adamoyas I'm growing. So these are all supposed to be self-fertile. We're going to wait and see. A lot of them are flowering already. This is the first year. This is Lisa, and you can see it's flowering. Just starting. Whether it'll actually set fruit, I'm not really expecting that much for the first year, because generally when these trees are very small, they don't really hold well. I can't imagine that this would physically support a fruit anyway, but I'm just waiting to see. I'm not going to pick them off and just want to see what happens. Play it by ear. This is Pet Pak Chong, also known as PPK, another variety of Adamoya. And this is Priestley. For those who don't know what Adamoya is, it's a hybrid between a squamosa, an Annona squamosa, and a cherimoya, which is also in the Annona family. And depending on how much cherimoya is in there, or whether it's crossed with something else, there's a variation in the leaf. So you can see this is totally different leaf, much more like a cherimoya, wider leaf. And this variety has a much narrower leaf. This one hasn't started. Again, these are all in only a year. So this is another one. This we got from Leeds. This is African Pride. And you get this thing and it drops the leaves and you're sure it's dead.
Yep.
Like this one. This one, even this one, may still have some life left in it. I don't know, it may come back. I doubt it. But I replaced it. I didn't know whether it was because it was in a bad spot or just bad luck or something happened to it. But I really wanted this variety, so I bought another one. This is a Gefna, which is an Israeli variety. And it's supposed to be very good at self-pollinating. And you don't have to stand there with a paintbrush and running out all kinds of hours of the day and night. And so you can see this is pushing a lot of babies coming out of this thing. A lot of flowers coming out. And there's actually, look, this one looks like it's set. So I think I may get fruit out of it. Nice. Now, based on the thickness of this, I might let it stay. A lot of stuff is not labeled of what it is different. So sometimes you buy an Annona or a sugar apple, and it'll just tell you sugar apple. And sometimes it'll tell you green sugar apple, and sometimes it'll tell you Asian sugar apple. So this is one of these that was just labeled Asian sugar apple. I believe it's a Thai lizard, the variety, based on looking at it and how dense the growth is and everything else. I have another one, Nadai, in the back. Look, I just noticed it. Also, sending up fruit,
Nice.
flowering. So, mystery plant. These are some volunteer papayas, planted by the birds or squirrels or something. I leave it. We'll see how it goes. This is the newest loquat added to the collection. This is Big Jim. I got this from Leaf. It was just grafted, a couple weeks ago. When you first put it in the ground, it drops a whole bunch of leaves, and you think, "Oh crap, it's going to die on me." But then it starts pushing up new leaves, and it's just its way of adjusting. It lightened the load of leaves, so it would be less strain on the roots. This is Oliver loquat, which of the varieties that I grow has the biggest fruit and the least amount of seeds. They all seem to taste about the same. They all ripen around the same time. But obviously more meat and less seed is a desirable thing. Big Jim I got that because it's supposed to produce a large fruit, so you get more fruit to seed ratio. Time will tell. I haven't tried that one yet. This is Champagne. Makes a nice fruit. Same thing. It produces at a very small size. I saw someone posting about trees, the loquat's got to be 9 feet tall, 8 feet tall before they start fruiting. All of these were loaded with fruit and a hell of a lot smaller. So I think the grafted trees perform way differently than seedlings.
Sure. Yep.
This is the first year I got fruit. Yep. This is a fairly new one. It's in the ground less than a year, so it hasn't fruited yet. It's Maha Chinook. As you can see, it sent some panicles, but none of the fruit stayed. So I don't really worry about it because it's a young tree. I got a feeling it's very vigorous. This one may need some pruning because you can see it's growing like 2-3 feet a year. This is Golden Nugget, another loquat. Had a load of fruit, and I found it to be the smallest fruit. And it's interesting because I just saw a post from Shuja Hockey, who's on the Florida Food Forest group, and when I mentioned it, he mentioned that his gold nugget produces his largest fruit coming off of this tree. And for me, he's also in zone 10A, and for me, this made the smallest fruit. They're not much bigger than an olive, but his were the size of an egg, and were his biggest fruit. So, results may vary. This is a Cari mango, which so far is my favorite, taste-wise, because of the complex flavor. Very weird phenomenon happened with all the Cari mangoes this year. The first flush that they produced of all the panicles produced only male flowers. Zero fruit setting. And so I did a little research, and they said the best thing to do is cut off all the panicles, and it'll push a second growth. And sure enough, that's exactly what I did. I cut off all of the panicles, and it sent up a second growth, and the second growth fruited. And you can see I got fruit on them. If I didn't know that little trick, I would have missed a year. And now I'm going to get my favorite Caris out of it. There's a new guy that I added to the collection. It's supposed to stay small, and because I'm running out of space, so here in this little corner, there's a cogs hall, which nobody pronounces correctly. Everyone calls it cogshawl, but it actually comes from cogs hall, which is like a location somewhere. But little trivia thing. Small tree, but it's got fruit on it. How much they'll hold, I don't know. Obviously, it's a late season one because the fruit are tiny. But we shall see. This one is actually developed from Cari. It's called Angie. Never fruited until this year. And boom, heavy crop for a young tree. Again, these are only in the ground 2.5 years. Same thing about the nutritional deficiency versus disease. Look at the older leaves from last year. See all the chlorosis and spotting. It looks like people say, oh, it's magnesium, it's this, it's that. You know, hit it with Epsom salts. All kinds of nonsense people tell you. Spray it with this, spray it with that. And all it really needed was a little sulfur. Because the soil here is very basic and the groundwater is basic. You know, the well water. So by giving it a little sulfur, it acidified it and it's able to absorb the micronutrients. And now you see the new leaves all don't have a deficiency, and it fruited, flowered like crazy, and loaded for fruit. So it just needed a little more acid correction, pH correction, and not a ton of chemicals and insecticides and herbicides and you name it. This one is in its, you know, I'm sure you've heard that term sleep, creep, and then leap. Where you talk about putting a tree in the first year, it does nothing. This is in the do nothing phase. This is another interesting variety, Orange Essence. And this is obviously in their sleeping stage. It's not really sleeping, it's sending all its energy into growing roots. And so it hasn't even bothered pushing out any new growth. But if it was dying, you'd see the leaves falling off. It was yellowing and falling off, so it's sleeping. Next year, hopefully, it'll wake up.